The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV.
Y'all ready for this?
Booyah! We are back. 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yes, November 7th.
Yep.
1st November, Wednesday, 1st November show, 2018. Pitch black outside.
Yeah,
That means it's time for another installment of Southern Nevada Sports News coming to you from WWDBTV.com. My name is Bill Miller, co-host along with
Jeff Belknap.
Yes, and I'm sorry I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Oh, no, it was good. Because when you said pitch black, I was like seriously thinking about taking a nap on the way in because it was like the thing about Las Vegas is because of the mountains, it actually gets dark here like 4:30.
Yes.
And when I was coming in, I was like, why is it like pitch dark before the show? Because normally we have an hour after the show before it gets dark in the summertime.
Yeah.
But because of the daylight savings time ending, I guess is what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just a tragedy. I hate the wintertime here.
I'm not a big fan of standard time. Just daylight saving time gives you a chance to do some things late in the day.
Right.
But you're right. I start to yawn and a few other things as well. I find myself drinking coffee now at like 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, you're drinking coffee. I'm already at the bar. Yeah. It gets dark. I'm like, screw it, let's go.
Staying on the grind. Well, folks, thank you once again for tuning in and joining us. We've got a great show today.
Yes.
We be actually standing by online. We have another disciple of the now famous Pro Kick. There's no way of getting around these guys anymore. They used to be that little secret down in Australia.
That's right.
But with all of their alumni, in the United States, it is no longer a secret, and they have become a huge tool in the arsenal of special teams around the United States and D1, D2, as well as the pro ranks. So we're going to be joined by him. But just to welcome everybody, of course, John Stiles, the guru, owner, and head engineer here at the studio. Thanks again for keeping the doors open, buddy.
What's up, John?
We appreciate it. So without further ado, we're going to like to introduce you Wade Lees, a current punter at the University of Maryland. Wade, how you doing, buddy?
Good, boys. Yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you very much for joining us. And as we led into this Pro Kick, it used to be that great, the best kept secret in Australia for fine-tuning and honing superb punting skills, thanks to your footy down in Australia, but no longer a secret anymore.
No, it's certainly not. So obviously with guys like Michael Dixon, obviously in the NFL ranks, he's taken the NFL by storm. So doing some of that drop kick stuff, he's certainly getting the brand out there, which is good. It's obviously good for Australia as well. It's sort of putting us a little bit more on the map in the football aspect.
Yeah, well, do you know Jake Aquid by any chance? Squid?
Yeah, so Jake's actually obviously a good friend of mine,
Yeah, of course, when Jake was here in Las Vegas, and he was actually one of our co-hosts on the show, in addition to being a punter for the Vegas Lions football team.
I remember that very well.
Yeah, and it was really our first introduction to getting the Pro Kick guys, on the show. So it's been a relationship that when they used to come to the United States, it would be kind of a quick trip.
Right.
Really, pretty much a week, and they could kind of see, a few guys that they had that had made it to the collegiate level. Now, these guys have they got a set aside part of the year.
Oh, I think it was like almost a month last time, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we were fortunate enough to have who was.
We have had tons of them. We've actually had Wade on before. The last time that we had Wade on, he was
about 2 years ago. I think it was my first year I actually got here.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was over 2 years ago now. So I think it was about my third game into my first season. So obviously heading towards the end of my third season.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so you've had a chance to eat all the crab cakes and
Hot Maryland famous for,
beef.
isn't it?
Was it the hot beef melt sandwiches? As well as the, of course, the blue crabs, in the Chesapeake Bay crabs.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, and it's, it's amazing how time flies. It really does. So, you've obviously settled into Maryland, and, coming off a tough loss last week, but against a really good Michigan State team. So how do you see the rest of the year shaking out?
Yeah, that's right. So obviously the boys have been trying hard. We've definitely been putting in the work during the week. So as you said, it was just a tough loss. They're a great outfit, Michigan State. All facets of the game, through special teams, offense and defense. They're really well drilled. They've got great coaches, and so you can't really slip up on any phase on offense, defense, or special teams, and and they just obviously capitalised on us. But heading forward, we've had a pretty good week. Indiana, they're a very good team also. Since I've been here, we're 1-1. My first year, we lost to them by about 3 or 4 points. Then last year, it went down to pretty much the final minute, and we won by 4 points. So both high-scoring times. I think it was 44-39 the first time, and the next time was 39 to 33 or something. So so both great teams can score a lot, and obviously just whoever comes to play, really.
Oh, it's beautiful. So I'm looking at the stats from last week. You actually made the Pro Kick week 10 top 10 or top 3. So what the stats that I always look at what really makes a difference, especially in punting, is the fact that you guys, the Pro Kick guys, are able to kick the ball inside the 20 and make that like kind of a staple of what you guys do. So tell a little bit.
Right. Oh.
No, go ahead. Tell me a little bit about how you guys do that.
Pretty much just coming from obviously our Australian football background. A lot of Americans, when we say Australian football, they think it's rugby. So it's obviously two completely different sports. Rugby, you're throwing the ball. The only portion that you're really kicking it is if you're kicking it through the uprights, pretty much like American football. But
right.
Australian football is a ball shaped like an American football, essentially. But the way a quarterback would pass to a wide receiver, we actually kick the ball out of our hands to which essentially would be the wide receiver, but which would be our teammate. And from then on, you can advance the ball or whatnot. But so our game is very high paced, and it's pretty much all hand-eye or hand-foot essentially. So hand-eye. So it's a lot of pressure game. So that's when just catching a snap from, say, if my long snapper's on the 45 and just hitting a pooch punt inside 20. It's pretty much like we could do it in our sleep, because we're used to pretty pressure coming from us in a 360 manner rather than just from straight on in front. So even if there's guys rushing us, it's just a quick catch and kick. Obviously our judgment in our depth from that is, and obviously how far and obviously where to place it is our strength and our specialty.
Right.
Absolutely. So one of the stats that I'm looking at just from last week, 45-yard average, 44.4 net, which basically means they're not returning these kicks.
No, that's right.
Oh man, just dropping them right down there.
And I will tell you that I watched the game. Usually the Maryland games are harder for me to catch because they're earlier in the day. But I was watching Dom play at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And a stat came across, and it said that he had 3 returns for the whole year, 3 returns for a total of 13 yards.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, how more dominant can you be? I mean, from a punting standpoint, and when I say dominant, I'm not talking about just Dom, I'm talking about all of you guys. The fact that you're actually putting people in a place where they cannot even return the ball.
Yeah, that's right. It's just obviously when I first come over here, obviously you start off a little bit nervous and not really know what to do, but I find it's the more comfortable you get and the more you can just settle into your role. That obviously plays a big part as well. So, and then you can just relax more and just sort of resort back to that experience with Australian football. And then obviously that's when Don's had a fantastic game. Aaron Sipos, who's at Auburn now, and also Max Duffy. Those two have settled right in well as like their first year players. So I know they've got pretty high averages as well. So without very many return yards. So it's obviously vital because as you know, field positions probably even on a punt, there's no real play on the field that pretty much averages 40 yards per play. So having a good punt sort of outfit is detrimental to the success of even of your defense as well. So obviously, if you can flip that field and pin them deep, I don't know what the percentages are, but obviously the further you pin them back, the harder it's going to be for their offense to drive a full 90 yards or even 80 yards.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Oh, I mean, if you're a defensive coordinator and you got a punter that you know is going to pin these guys back,
right.
He pretty much can open up his playbook. I mean, it's catch as catch can at that point.
That's right.
Well, that's right. And obviously on the weekend, even against Michigan State in the warm-up, it was a heavy wind just like straight down the middle of the field. And in my warm-up, I wasn't hitting them too well. And then because I haven't really been I haven't been really been rolling out rugby all year. So into it, I did it once before, and that was against Iowa, and we had 40 mile an hour winds. So that was the only time I did it, and there was nothing I could do. Obviously, we didn't move the ball too well that game, and I think 6 of my 7 punts were into it. So the average wasn't great that week, but there's nothing I could have done. But sort of same thing on the weekend. Just having that ability, just to have that backup option of being able to roll out if I don't want to spiral or if there's like something that's going on, helps out as well for sure.
Yeah. So as far as the weather goes, obviously you're coming into the point of the year where the weather is going to get bad in Maryland. So where are you actually from in Australia? I mean, is that a factor are you used to the cold weather?
So I'm from Melbourne, which is down south,
Okay.
so which is where Johnny and also Chappie are from, where majority of the pro kick kids come from. So that's where I'm from. It does get cold, but nothing like Maryland cold. I'll tell you that. And even especially the wind. The wind on the weekend, it was scheduled for 3 mile an hour, and it picked up to like 25. So it can just come from nowhere. So I sort of felt sorry for the Michigan State punter because he's actually a very good punter. I've watched him, and I'm pretty sure he's maybe his third-string quarterback or a second-string quarterback. I'm not sure, but he's doing a fantastic job. And he was sort of left out there. Their coaches were sort of getting to roll out and try and hit the Aussie punting. Unfortunately, didn't get onto a few and sort of mishit a couple. So I definitely felt for him. But yeah, that weather can definitely play a big part on your performance of your day.
Well, you punters and for the most part, you guys and kickers, you guys tend to be pretty clannish. Yeah, you find yourselves kind of like meeting these guys before the game, and then are they like saying, well, how the hell are you knocking these things down?
No,
you can't be willing to share too many secrets with these guys.
No, that's right. If I come across the Aussies, obviously, like Blake Hayes.
Yeah, well, they're in the game.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. So I spoke to Blake Hayes, obviously, before the game, and any other Aussies I'll come up against. I don't really speak to many other guys unless I sort of know them. The only other team was Iowa, obviously, when we played them, and I said we had 45 mile an hour winds. We literally, both punters just stood there at the start, and we're just like, I actually don't even know what to do here. So he was actually lucky enough. I think I remember watching one of them warm up, and he shanked one about 10 yards, went about 40 yards deep into the crowd, like it was that bad. So he was fortunate enough for me to punt twice. One of them was with it, and then the other one was just a pooch punt that was just bread and butter, which wouldn't have been too hard. So I got the rough end of the stick that day for sure.
Well, watching, I used to get frustrated all the time because obviously I'm looking at it from the gambling standpoint, like most of, So I always thought, like, if a punter that's all they do why can't they kick it within the 5 like all the time? I mean, that should be like the play that they can do.
Yeah.
And now I'm
sure.
noticing a lot of these, especially the Aussie punters, and I think a lot of other punters are catching on now, that they need to punt towards a particular place.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah, that's fair.
how do you practice that, actually?
To be honest, I actually don't. Like, I practice my open-end punts, but sort of going inside 50, or inside 50, inside 20. I pretty much know my range where, like if I'm just sort of going through and kicking it, it's probably like a 42, 43-yard ball. So if I'm, like, putting extra onto it, it'll probably be, like, into 45, 47. So, like, I know from 45 onwards, I have to give it a good kick into it, so I know my distance. So I'll know, say from 40, if the long snapper's snapping the ball from 40, I can sort of just toy with it and set it up there. But as I said, if you're snapping it from the 45, I'll have to push a little bit extra. So it's just about knowing sort of your strengths and really how far you can hit the ball. But as I said, just muscle memory from playing Australian football. So in regards to pinpointing, as I said, we have to hit targets, so our own players, from 40 yards away on the run whilst we're getting tackled. So that's just repetitions over the years of practice that we've had.
So how many years did you actually play in the AFL, which is the Australian Football League?
So I started when I was about 12. I moved up through the ranks. Up in the higher leagues, I played for about 6 years, but all up, like, just playing football, it's probably about 15 or 16 years. So, and then from that, so I didn't even start till I was, as I said, 12 or 11 or whatever, but I always had a football in my hand since I was like 5 or 6. So, it's sort of deeply embedded.
Right. So how do you?
It's almost just like a father going out there with his son in the backyard and throwing a baseball, essentially.
Oh yeah, of course. So how do you feel about just taking that step out of, like, moving into American football? And I mean, what's the cultural change from your move from the Australia to the U.S.?
As in football wise, or culturally,
Oh,
as in
both,
from
both,
country
actually.
to country?
Oh, both, actually. I mean, what's the major difference between, I guess, just growing up and playing ball there to actually coming out here and playing college ball?
I suppose just Australian football is more fast-paced. I find American football, to be brutally honest, slow. There's too many timeouts. It's just not as fast-paced as I like. Me, obviously, being a punter, coming back from playing Australian football, I like being involved in the game more. I like being able to influence a game. I know I can influence a game here, but I'd like to be actually involved more, just like tackling, hitting plays, actually getting a sweat up, to be honest. So,
right.
Not just punting the ball on the sideline, and because it's a high-pressured sort of position, obviously being a punter, because you might only come on once, and that punt might to be flip the field to win the game. So, or even a kicker, like the same thing. So, even though everyone's like, oh yeah, sort of don't respect the specialists as much as they do other players, there's definitely a lot of pressure with it. Obviously, if you're a receiver or a quarterback and you miss a throw, you've still got another 2 downs to obviously make amends. Whereas being a kicker or a punter, you might only have that one opportunity. If not, in the NFL, as I've seen, there's already been 5 or 6 kickers kicked out of the league this year. So, just that high pressure. It's just that high pressure situation. But yeah, I definitely miss being involved a lot more in the game of Australian football. But yeah, as I said, I just find American football just a little bit too slow with all the TV timeouts and whatnot.
Oh yeah, especially being in the Big Ten or whatever.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't have 3.5, 4 hours to set aside,
right?
You're it's that's about it. From a cultural standpoint, I mean, obviously if you had time to kind of settle in, I mean, how often do you get a chance to go back to Australia?
So I've been back pretty much once a year. So first year we made a bowl game, so we went to Detroit.
Yes,
so went straight back home after that. Then last year we didn't. We had a pretty tough schedule last year. And then, so I still went back last year, so it almost cost me an arm and a leg. But, so I managed to get back last year. Then, so this year, sort of depends, see what happens. If I make a bowl game, Maryland flies me back. So hopefully we get the chocolates this week over Indiana, because it'll save me a few bucks.
Okay, well, right now you're actually in the hunt for a bowl game, but you're actually coming into a couple big games.
Yep.
You play Indiana this week at home, and then you go to Ohio State and then finish up against Penn State. I mean, how's the team
opposite
feeling?
Way. We got Indiana at Indiana, then we got Ohio State at home.
Right, and then you finish up at Penn State, correct? Or no,
yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
correct.
No, you're at home against Penn State. That's what it is.
Yeah.
No, we're away against Penn State.
Oh, well, honestly, it says to be announced. The website is actually getting me. I mean, look at this.
We're going to take your word for it.
That really is what it says here.
Yeah. No, we're at Bloomington this week, so we're at Indiana this week, and then Ohio State back here the week after. But that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, how's it looking? I mean, you guys are going to be able to pull out a bowl game?
I suppose all the boys, as I said earlier on, they're putting in the hard work. Everyone's done everything right, so let's just wait and see. So if the right Maryland come out on Saturday, and obviously we play hard, everything goes our way, everyone gets their assignments done, we definitely have more of a chance. As I said, Indiana's certainly no walkover, so they obviously pushed Ohio State for a fair bit. They've pushed a lot of teams. I think I'm not sure how many games they've won, but I'm sure they've won a few as well. So they'll be pushing for a bowl game, or they might already be bowl eligible. I'm not too sure, but they certainly are not no pushover. Yeah,
well, they're 4-5 right now, and then they're seeking a bowl game at this point.
Right.
So I mean, this is going to be this really going to come down to it. But so you're playing in the Big Ten. Obviously, there's some powerhouses. You got two teams in the top 10. You know, you played Michigan State last week, whose defense is literally number one in the country, rushing anyway.
Yep.
I mean, when looking at these teams, I mean, how do you feel about, Michigan State? Wait, I can't just ask like a personal question. I mean,
listen, I'm just.
I saw the way you looked at me right there. Like, obviously, I'm a Michigan fan. I want to know like which team is better, because you've been on the field with both of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's sort of hard for me to explain, 'cause obviously, like their defenses, they both did well against us. But our offense is high powering. Like, we've got some great running backs there. We've got obviously like guys like Ty Johnson, Ant McFarlane, who's on the freshman. We've got like Javon Leake, Tayon Fleet Davis. We're stacked at running back. So, but obviously, as you said, I couldn't really say who's the better defense, because I've honestly gotten really no idea what's going on in that aspect of it. But obviously, as you said, Michigan State's not the number one rush defense for nothing, and I'm pretty sure Michigan's probably maybe at 2 or 3 behind them. So right. I'm sure they wouldn't be far off either, because they're sitting 4 in the country at the moment. So, and their defense is doing really well.
Well, we have an opportunity in speaking to you, young man, at a high-powered D1 school in Maryland, and obviously you pay attention, maybe you don't, to polls. Yep. And so I guess the latest power rankings are out. From 1 to 4, it was basically Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Michigan.
Yep.
Do you agree with that? I mean, because we always like to get your opinion from somebody you're in the grind. I mean, you're actually out there in this. What do you think about, especially the way Alabama played LSU last week?
So obviously I don't think he's taking us away from Alabama. They're the team. So Clemson's obviously 9-0 as well. So you can't take anything away from them. Obviously, Notre Dame are also 9-0 as well. So they obviously beat Michigan. Michigan, I'm sort of surprised to see them at 4, to be completely honest. I think maybe Georgia might trump them, but who knows? But yeah, I feel that like pretty much the top six are very deserving. Maybe from 4 to 6, you can flip a coin just to see who's that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm yet to witness Ohio State firsthand. Obviously, we got them in 2 weeks' time, so I can probably report back to let you know how they should push it. But Ohio State obviously always make a run. It seems like obviously the last 3 years, even when I've been here, they've always dropped one sort of early on, and then they've gone undefeated pretty much the rest of the season to push for the championship. So I wouldn't write them off either.
Right.
Well, obviously the loss to Purdue was big, and it was emotional.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I mean that's going to be a tough one, and obviously it's really going to come down to who wins that game on the 24th.
Yeah. I think with Michigan, I think they got the nod because they lost to Notre Dame, another 9-0 team. So I think that kind of pushed them over the edge. It was. I think you're right. It was probably a coin toss.
Right.
That
and the fact that they dominated Penn State last week.
They really did. I mean, I think everybody was a little bit surprised at that.
Yeah.
But they
even
played
sort of
well.
when we played Michigan, I felt early on we'll run them with them. Just our defense has been really good all season. I feel they've just sort of tied it out towards the end of games. Obviously, they've been left out there for a little bit too long. But for the first half against Michigan, I found our defense did really well. I'm pretty sure we had a pick early on. Yeah, we were right there with them. I think it was 7-3 at quarter time or something, and they might have got it out to like 17 to something. But I don't like if I was being on the field, it didn't seem like they were blowing us out because we were still sort of we were moving the ball all right as well. So. But it'll be interesting to see how they go push deeper into November.
Absolutely. So when you get in position where you see these Big Ten teams coming up to towards the end of the season, do you tend to become a Big Ten fan, or you kind of let that like that's our competitor or fierce competitor fall into place?
No, for me definitely, because there's always competition. Because between us pro kick guys, we've got a bit of a group chat on Facebook. So pretty much who's got the hardest conference. So obviously I'm rallying saying the Big Ten does. There's a few other guys in the SEC and Pac-12. So it's always good to see the Big Ten teams beat the other conferences for sure. So I'm definitely rooting for the other Big Ten teams just to get the wood over the other guys.
So I'm noticing a lot of young guys coming up. I saw that Michigan State just signed a pro kick guy, and
Jack?
These guys keep coming. I mean, do you want to give a shout out to any of your colleagues?
There's too many of them, to be honest. My good man Jack Sheldon, who's at Central Michigan. His brother Tommy Sheldon was at North Carolina for 2 years. So, and my good old mate Timmy Gleason, who was at the Rutgers, so he's finished up now as well. But yeah, those three are reptiles. So I don't mind a good beer.
All right.
There you go.
Okay, so we got a couple more minutes. So Bill and I always have a something that we throw out for all of our guests.
Oh yeah.
And this is an NFL question, by the way. We'd like to know who you think will represent the AFC, the NFC, and then who will win it all.
To be honest, I don't even know which teams are in the AFC, I've got no idea.
You
so
really
give me a list of teams.
It's okay.
All right, so if you went with pro kick guys, then it would be Seattle against Pittsburgh. But
Yep.
And Dixon, and I can give this guy a shout out. This dude has been kicking the ball, like dropping it on a dime, really kind of showing out in a sense of like what the difference is between other punters and the pro kick punters.
Yeah. I mean, he makes it look so easy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the unique, attribute to you guys. You really do make it look easy. And I know it's not. I've tried to punt a football. I've tried to kick a football. And I've been completely unsuccessful at both. So I know what kind of work and effort goes into it. But you say it's just muscle memory, and don't give me that.
Yeah, right.
You also can't forget our little mate, also Cam Johnson, who's out at the Eagles right now. He's
that's right.
smashing that ball down the field as well. So,
well, I forgot him on purpose because he's Ohio State guy, but
nah.
sorry, Cam, man. I still love you.
I love Cammy J. He's
great.
absolutely killing it at the moment. I think he's leading the NFL in punt yards per average.
No, it's great. I mean, you know what? It's great for us, Bill and I, to see you guys because we've been working and kind of talking to you guys for a couple of years now, and it's great to see like this expansion that's going on. I mean, it's phenomenal.
It is. And you talk to people about it, and they're like, Pro Kick who?
Right.
Australia. I'm going like, you've got to pay attention.
If you don't know, then you probably should pay some attention.
And clearly, the college recruiters are now taking note. And so, I mean, come on, these guys, they certainly talk. And as many as coaches are moving around, it's small wonder why you're not landing at more and more of these schools. So, well done.
I think it's a commodity now. So.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Okay, so can you give us a team do you think is going to win it all? How about that?
In the NFL?
In the NFL, yeah. Or give us both. Can you give us both?
College football, I don't think you can go past Alabama again, can you? It's just, I know it's boring, it's the usual. I'd maybe like to see Notre Dame win it or someone, just someone different. But obviously you can't go past Alabama. In the NFL, let's just throw something out there. Either the Rams or Kansas City.
Nice.
Okay.
Those are both Bills teams. So.
Yeah, then one is my AFC team and one is my NFC team. Yeah. Grew up in L.A. I'm an L.A. homeboy.
That's right.
Yeah, I'd love to see the Rams win it, but...
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Well, listen, man, there's nothing wrong with that, so stick with that.
Hey, Wade, thanks a lot for coming on. We really appreciate it.
We really appreciate it, man. And
no worries, buddy.
And good luck, this weekend. And needless to say, just keep representing Pro Kick.
For sure, I will do.
All right.
Thanks, Wade.
Take care now.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All righty. All right. Wade Lees, punter for University of Maryland. And they're getting ready to saddle up against Indiana this week.
Yes.
Yeah. And then it gets a little tough for them the home stretch. They've got the Ohio State University and Penn State. Yeah, and Penn State, they're probably going to be a bit salty, especially after getting manhandled by Michigan. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to switch gears here, and hopefully we'll be joined by our buddy in the ATL, Torrance Hall. Southern Nevada Sports coming to you from WWDBTV.com. We'll be right back.
The golf store you've been waiting for is now open. Bob Allen Golf is ready to help you take your game to the next level. Bob Allen Golf is located at 6415 South Fort Apache, Las Vegas 89148. Choose your favorite clubs from our selection of Bridgestone, Callaway, Cleveland, XXIO, Srixon, Ping, Wilson, and more. We'll custom fit them in our state-of-the-art full-swing golf simulator. Come hang out with us and practice on our putting green to find out which club is perfect for you. Have your clubs repaired, reshafted, and regripped in our on-site tour shop. And talk about accessories. Guys and gals will feel comfortable and look sharp in the many sizes, colors, and options of apparel from Greg Norman, Black Clover, Under Armour, and more. The team at Bob Allen Golf takes your game as seriously as you do. Join our online family at boballengolf.com and stop in the store to meet us. Remember, at Bob Allen Golf, your game is in the bag.
We are back. Round two. Southern Nevada Sports News coming to you from WWDBTV.com. And as promised, we have with us our buddy from the ATL, Torrance Hall. How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, buddy? Everything's good, man. What's going on?
Man, it's going good. And he sounds awfully chipper. I mean, his Falcons are certainly moving in the right direction. And even the Hawks are picking it up.
Uh-oh.
Somebody get your popcorn.
So, as we discussed, man, let's start with the NBA. And, and we are now a few weeks into the season.
Yep.
If you're watching ESPN, it seems to be NBA all day, all the time, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I know they're owned by Disney and ABC, and I know that that's their bread and butter. But my God, you would think that, like something like the World Series, I guess it just kind of like interfered with opening day of the NBA. But anywho, the NBA is starting to, we're starting to see some teams kind of move, where we thought they would, and others where we thought they wouldn't. So and we'd like to get, get some input. But let's start with you, my man, and let's start with the Eastern Conference as always.
Well, I'll say who I'm truly surprised by in the Eastern Conference is Toronto. I knew they'll be pretty good, but right now they're like leading the Eastern Division, Eastern Conference, and they beat all the good teams right now. They beat Boston and everybody else. They're really playing good, and they played a few games like Kawhi Leonard, and they still winning.
Mm-hmm.
And who else in the Eastern Conference? Milwaukee. Milwaukee had a great start. They started off like 7-0. They lost a few games recently and whatnot, but I feel like Milwaukee, with the Greek Freak and the acquisition of Lopez, he's shooting threes like he's a real point guard now.
Absolutely.
And everything. I think that's going to be a contention. They'll be a running contention with Toronto, with Boston behind them. But Boston really having a slow start right now.
Yeah, you kind of expect them to pick it up. It's the beauty about the NBA. It's a long-ass season, not just the number of games, but also the months.
Right.
We'll be literally in the summer, talking about the NBA Finals. I look at, Toronto. I mean, they're surprising. It just points to one person, Kawhi Leonard. I mean, they were a great team. They had the best record in the Eastern Conference last year, and once again, couldn't get past who.
Right.
You don't have to worry about that this year. But
Right.
it's, I look at Milwaukee, and to me, Milwaukee is a surprise team. And I look at something like, the point differential, and they're at plus 12.7.
Right.
Right.
And that's second only to Golden State, in the NBA, who's at plus 13.7.
Right.
So, if you, as you mentioned, they started out 7-0, and, I'm looking, I'm thinking like, I think they were a good team, but are they a great team?
Right. Honestly, I think they are a great team. They coached by our old former coach, Budenholzer. He's up there, and I think their team is going to go as much as Giannis grows. If the Greek Freak continue to grow and learn the game, not really just try to dominate scoring all the time, but just dominate the game from the defensive aspect and getting everybody involved and just rally behind that style of play. We won 65 games behind Budenholzer, so I know he had way better talent right now. So they could give anybody problems out there because the Greek Freak two players.
Those were great times down in the ATL when he was down there.
Oh man, great times, man, great times.
Well, the way that looks right now in the East, if you could just play Cleveland every day, then you'd be set. 1-10.
Yeah, he just sort of flipped the records from Toronto and Cleveland. At the top, you've got Toronto at 10-1, and you got Cleveland at 1-10. They're already working on their second coach of the year, and he is sort of trying to negotiate that whole interim thing. I don't know if they've settled that, but I honestly think the whole thing with Lou, I think they just really pulled the trigger way too quick.
Yeah,
they knew that this team was going to start slow. And they knew they had a lot of young guys. And I think he was trying to play a lot of those young guys and get them that experience. And I think it was just a knee-jerk reaction. And now, it's who knows? I mean, they may very well be, angling for one of these three cats that are going to be coming out of Duke next year. So that might be, maybe that's where they're looking at now because I guess, they've mentioned that one of these guys looks like he's going to be the next LeBron.
Yeah.
You talking about that young Zion Williams?
Yeah, I mean, and so it's but and not to change direction, but the beatdown that they put on Kentucky.
Oh my gosh,
Jesus Christ!
Shout out to Duke for picking this guy up. I actually first got my very first. I actually remember exactly where I was. I was in a chicken place in St. Louis, and he's originally from St. Louis. And one of the guys at the table said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this kid Zion
Williamson?"
Yeah. And I was like, "No, who's that?" He's a junior. He told me he's a junior in a high school in St. Louis, and I was like, "No, I never even heard of him." So I looked him up on Twitter. I started following him then, and then I kind of was like, "Wow, this guy's getting good." And then he signed with Duke, and I'm like, "Oh wow." So I mean, to watch this kid play, he's 6'7", 245 pounds.
Still growing.
beastness.
Yeah, still growing, which is
Still
even scarier. And clearly, if he's at Duke, he can read a playbook.
Believe that.
Yeah, he can follow instructions and direction because you got to have that GPA if you're down there in Tobacco Road. But it's just that was mind-boggling. But and we'll get a chance to cut back into that. But your surprise in the East. Other than Cleveland Cavaliers, which may not be a surprise at all. Who do you see as your just really how slow they started out?
It's got to be the Washington Wizards at 2-8 right now. These guys are looking like a straight disaster. The Hawks are better than them right now.
Yeah.
They have John Wall, a premier point guard, and Bradley Beal, one of the best shooters. And you see that Otto Porter Jr. I think it got to be coaching or something, man. Maybe they're not feeling. Is it Brooks out there, Scott Brooks?
I listen. I think that again, it's still early, but these are teams that I think everybody was looking at based on the way they finished last year, to really be out there, kind of in front, kind of at least into the top seeds as far as the East is concerned. I agree with you. I think that the Wizards. I'm not surprised at how bad Cleveland is. I thought they would be more than one game at least. But the Knicks, for some reason, I really did think that they could kind of just hover around 500 by now.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're already dropping off the radar pretty fast.
Well, I'm a little worried about Detroit because they fired out fast, but they lost to a couple teams that aren't that good. So they're 5-5 right now, but they've lost a couple teams that they really should beat. Like, I don't think anyone should lose to Brooklyn at all. I think that Brooklyn should, go like 20-62 or something around there.
They're like a smasher team.
Yeah, exactly. In my opinion.
That's
right.
Yeah. It's is it the Brooklyn ownership? That Russian guy. I know he's a party animal, and everybody loves the guy.
Right.
But I guess he used to ball in Russia. He's like 6'8", 6'9", or something like that.
Yeah, 6'9", 6'10", something like that.
Yeah, and Buck Wild from what I gather. But maybe it's time for that ownership to maybe change hands.
Yeah.
Because ever since they fired Jason Kidd, they just it has just not. And how many coaches are they into now?
I think two. They're in the midst of three since then.
Yeah, at least.
This was it was fourth one now.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
So what about the West? You're looking at the West. Obviously no surprise with Golden State coming out firing. I'm a little surprised a little bit by Denver. And
me too.
The homeboy the other night, man, just busted out with like 45 points, and I guess he was very disrespectful with the way that he was scoring and stuff.
Well, yeah, okay, it depends on who you ask, and apparently the person
who you asking,
was Kyrie Irving. He was the one. I guess he was at 48.
Yeah.
And they were winding down. He just sort of heaved it up a three.
Yeah.
To get to the big 5-0, and Kyrie Irving just sort of like really. Took umbrance to it, and fired the ball up into the crowd. Maybe being some kid, who knows? But he heaved it up there. It was moving, and it cost him $25,000, which is, let's face it, for these guys, chump change.
Right.
But yeah, he was, and I guess he was like still talking about it, like the next day or something like that. Get over it, for God's sakes. The guy was going for 50. You don't get that opportunity very often. I would have put it up.
Yeah, but
I would have driven to the hole.
Isn't it like, stop me then? Come and defend me.
Yeah,
if you don't want me to score 50, I'm about to heave this up.
Yeah,
come
out, and and then be on me, and then follow me around.
If you're walking off to the bench, which kind of like what he was doing, he was kind of
Yeah.
And then he just grabbed the ball and then decided to like knock some little kid out. I don't think he really did that.
I don't know if it was somebody got wounded, but he was moving.
The point is a little bit bad sportsmanship on his part, but
it wasn't like here's a souvenir for the 80 rows up. I mean, he was, he put some stink on it.
It was the first time you kind of seen him crack under pressure a little bit as far as his action support.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do where they're at right now, which is 6-4. Everybody, all eyes were on the Celtics in terms of being the team in the East, especially with LeBron moving out west. And of course,
right.
But again, Golden State not surprising anybody where they're at. On the other side, to me, the Houston Rockets now. They're, to me, the surprise of the entire NBA. I mean, this is a team that won the West last year.
Yeah.
It has the same components, basically.
Essentially, and even added one, and so is this time to start panicking in Houston?
Yes, Houston is a problem, and the problem came from Oklahoma, by the way of New York and Denver, by the way of Syracuse.
Gee, I wonder who we're talking about.
That guy, telling you, because he can't play defense like Ariza did, and he's not aggressive like, I think I can't pronounce his name, number 2, something like that. But he played great defense, that guy. He played good defense.
Okay, so one more
Yeah.
thing about the NBA, and then we only have a few minutes, 10 minutes left, so we want to go to the NFL. What did you think about Rondo and Paul getting a little scuffle?
Well, if you spit in the man's face, and
that's pretty low.
I mean, anything can happen, man. So some people probably would handle it different. You don't promote violence, but you also don't promote being chumped off and punked. So you have to stay around and defend yourself, and take the fine. Some people would have probably done something different. He chose to swing, and I guess he got offended. But it was crazy to me. I know he wouldn't have been spinning on me. We would have had a problem too.
Yeah.
Bill knows. We talked about this before. I think basketball would be a better sport if they could fight. If you could fight like one fight a game where you can pull the jersey over the head, kind of like hockey.
That's it. Just sort of like signal to the officials. We're going to get into this right now. Yeah, and everybody else sort of pair off, and then these two guys just going to go at it in center court, for a few seconds
until somebody hits the ground. That would be actually kind of cool. Like they call timeout, and then the two guys square up at center court.
And then when one has the obvious advantage and gets him down, then
refs jump in.
Referees move in and then say, "All right, we appreciate it. Thanks for coming."
Okay, so Atlanta picked up a DN this week from the fire sale that we called the Oakland Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you thinking about that pickup?
Well, I think the pickup is excellent because one thing I know is like a person that worked with somebody in general, their work ethics and what they did, on the job, but especially if you won a Super Bowl together, so you've been in the trenches with him, so he's like a mercenary right now. We're picking him up. He worked with Dan Quinn years ago, and Dan Quinn, we're going to get him actually 2 years ago. We finally got him now. He's going to make Big Beasley step his game up. And he's going to help everybody. He's going to bring that swamp. One thing about it, he's going to come in there with the ring, and a lot of those guys are young right now. He's going to talk to those guys and tell them, you are it. You the same thing. We can create our own Legion of Boom. He's going to go in there and motivate them. That's what they're there for. He said he's going to start Sunday. He's going to come in there and motivate them. That's how I feel.
So he's not going to be talking about what to do when you're up 28-3 in the third quarter?
Because listen, it's going to be 55. Same thing they did to Peyton Manning is going to do to the next team. No. That's how he going to say we're going to do how we did Peyton.
No, I got you. So they obviously they play Cleveland this week, and without head coach, interim head coach. I mean, do you feel like you're going to be able to pull out that victory and kind of keep pace with the Saints who just picked up Des Bryant?
Well, we definitely need to take care of this win because one thing about it, we can't take them lightly because they are leading the league in takeaways, regardless. So we got to protect ourselves as far as Matt Ryan making precise throws, getting the right run play, just being consistent how we've been and not doing all that trickery. Just keep it Falcons ball, and we can go in there and pull out a win. They're going to try to defend their homeland, which they're supposed to do. But we just got to keep on fighting. They've been in 3 overtime games, so these guys are going to fight to the end.
Oh, that's great. So possibly if Atlanta could get it together, I mean, put together some wins, 3 teams out of that division that can go to the playoffs?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's
like last year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is
I
a
think we
distinct
can do it.
possibility because I don't think anybody expects anybody other than the conference champ or the division champion to come out of the NFC East.
Right.
There's no wild card coming out of there.
I mean, and one of those teams could be a 500 team. Winning that
More than
division.
likely, I think Dallas still has a shot at winning the division at 8-8.
Oh, they do. I mean, when you look at they have a big game obviously this weekend with Dallas and Philly. So,
which if they're going to lose.
I mean, if Dallas wins that game, they're both 4-5.
Well, Dallas
in first place in that division. Yeah. Well, Washington's still right there, but I mean, if Washington loses, everything could be
here's it. They're at 3-5.
Right.
Within 2 weeks, they're going to be 3-7.
Yeah.
And
wait, are you talking about the Lions?
No, I'm talking about the Cowgirls. And Rusty, Rusty, also known as Jason Garrett, is going to be out of a job. I don't think they're going to wait as much as he's the first mic they shove down there after a Dallas Cowboy game, of course, is Jerry Jones, not the head coach. It's Jerry Jones, and he's like, we're not looking at any coaching changes here. Bullshit. I'm telling you right now, there's no point in them waiting till after the season where then you're competing against all these other teams that are looking for new coaches when you can get rid of them now and start your hunt. But it's the same thing. Did you hear what Troy Aikman came out and said today?
No.
Or it was after the game yesterday or Monday night's game that, it's institutional. Yeah, that there is no way it's going to change based on the current dynamics from the top down, because they keep talking about, we're doing this different and we're doing that differently. Everything still amounts to the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's essentially saying that, it's time for Jerry Jones to step aside. And, of course, he's got that kind of ego where that's just not going to happen. Because what coach is going to come in there and then, play, Jason Garrett for the next 4 or 5 years? Yeah. Garrett's been there 9 years.
Yeah, it's time to go.
9 years.
It'd be fair for him to go. I mean,
he's want to leave.
He's definitely average at best.
At best.
And the team constantly goes out and gets the best talent that they can get, and it's your job as the coach to get the best out of these guys. And I think he did that with Dak the first year.
Yeah.
But since then, it's kind of been like a steady downhill. And when you got Ezekiel Elliott and you're not giving him the ball, I mean, there's a serious issue there.
Yeah. I can't understand. You've got these weapons. Then put them to use.
Yeah.
It's almost like, we don't want to give too much away, or,
Yeah.
Like they got plays or something. Like, I don't understand either, man. They don't run Ezekiel Elliott enough because he's a guy that can. He could run 30 times a game. He's like Todd Gurley, really, man. He's a downhill. He gets better as the game progresses. So they should really utilize him more.
Well, worst case scenario, you just start giving him the ball. And then even if you go 3 and out, you're still feeding him the ball and you're giving him an opportunity to make plays. Because when you really look at the team, there's really not a whole lot of guys that are going to make plays for you. So you either give him the ball on a handoff, or you give it to him on a swing pass or a wheel route or something. Just put him
to work.
Put the ball in his hands.
But get him involved, and then that opens up your playbook to other things.
Yep.
And you actually working the defensive lineman and the linebackers in versus having them just going on pass plays. They can take a break kind of as far as the same pressures rushing a player versus trying to chase a player down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I tell you what, 2 weeks, Falcons are going to be 6-4.
Uh-oh.
Hey, it's all good. We got to practice on somebody. We're preparing for the playoffs, so we'll definitely bring them in town and let them have a nice hotel and feed them good breakfast and stuff, and and take care of business later on that day.
Well, that's it.
You better, because you got to pay for that stadium.
I'm talking about for real. We still trying to pay for this stadium, man. We get to the Super Bowl this year, it's paid for.
Oh, there you go. Well, that would be normally we would think that, but and can we just give a shout out to John Gruden for setting up the Las Vegas Raiders, because he is definitely doing his job to make sure that there's no chance that they're going to win in Oakland.
I heard in fact, I think it was Stephen A. Smith, who I'm not a real fan of, and he said arguably the dumbest thing of the year when he said that Gruden was hired to deflect heat away from the Raider ownership because they're strapped for cash and he's the fall guy and the front guy for this. At $10 million a year, I could trust me. Hey, Mark Davis, I can do it for $500,000 a year and take all the heat they got.
And go 0-16.
Yeah. And, after immediately getting manhandled by the 49ers, Gruden stands there and goes, I'm just trying to get people behind this team. Is he out of his
trust the process, Bill.
Yeah, and I'm thinking they got all these stockpile, all these, draft picks. If you got one great one out of 5 number 1 picks, you're lucky.
Well, the good thing is the salary part of it works because you get rid of the guys that are making the money. You bring those guys in that are young. They have the guaranteed, the lower contracts where you can get them for $300,000 or $400,000, $500,000, and then you might have to throw some money at a big guy, but the majority of these guys are going to come in at a very low contract. You get rid of the guys that are making the money, and you're saving money. In the
okay, and who do you invite to come watch these games in the meantime in Oakland?
Well, that's going to be the problem next year when they don't have a place to play.
Sam Boyd Stadium.
That's right.
All right. Torrance, thank you so much again, man, for joining us. We really appreciate it as always, man.
No problem, guys. I appreciate it every time.
And how do people reach you as far as your grub?
Well, you can reach me. You can reach me on Instagram. What is it? At Just One Taste. At Just_1_taste. Or you can go on Chef Halls. Chef Halls _specialty 79.
All right, that's what we're talking about.
Good food too, man. Every time I look at that stuff, man, it's like my mouth's watering.
I greatly appreciate it. We got a commercial,
Hey, well, folks, by all means, you've got to log in.
Indeed.
All right, man. Well, listen, we hope to have you on in the next couple of weeks as always, brother.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Rise up. We'll see you next week.
Take care, man.
All right, brother.
All right, folks. Once again, the hour has always does. I'd like to thank Wade Lees, punter for University of Maryland, and another one of the Pro Kick disciples for joining us, as well as our man T. Hall down in the ATL. Join us next Wednesday, November 14th, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for another edition of Southern Nevada Sports News coming to you from WWDBTV.com. Have a great week.
God bless.